remember doing a panel at the 2019 conference that Dad Central was part of. And I remember one of the fathers saying, hey, I know what to do. Tell me how to do it. Tell me. I remember it vividly, him saying that, and it was such a good point. They say, just tell me what I need to do. I want to be better. Tell me what I need to do. Never forget that. Hey, what is up, everybody? It's Ed Gough Jr. of the Dad Central Show and Dad Central, and I have presenting
Drew Soleyn of Dad Central.
I didn't do any air pointing. His hair went out front this time.
Well, the presenting kind of threw me off. I'm like, wait a minute, am I on stage now? Am I live for some performance?
Well, we're supposed to we'll come down a runway or something.
Yeah. Where's the great? I want some theme music then. You know, like when you go up to the batter's box, baseball playoffs is on right now, by the way. If you go to the batter's box, I want my intro music.
But you know, it's interesting. I was listening to one of my favorite sports shows the other day, and they were playing some of their favorite, I guess, baseball players' walk-up music. It was interesting. Like, everything's so entertainment. Why don't you just go up and hit the ball, catch, you do all those things? But everything has to have that entertainment slot. Not like when you and I played sports, it wasn't entertainment. We just grinded, right?
Okay, sure, we'll go with that.
Okay, that's good stuff. So, family, as always, welcome to the Dad Central Show, and we're having some fun, as we always do. And just remember, the Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man, because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. So we're going to be doing a little thing with ourselves today. So, Drew, what are we going to be chatting about today?
We're going to be talking about a recent article that shares a research study about the impact that fathers have on children's educational outcome. So we're going to be talking about just some of the ideas in the article, and excuse me, and what the research says. Yeah.
Good stuff. So I'll just kick it off and just give an overview of the study, and we'll get a little bit more into it. But this research found that children whose fathers read and play with them see a small but significant increase in their educational attainment. Drew, what's your take on that?
I mean, at a high level, that seems to map onto a lot of the research that Dad Central has done over the years about the value of a father's involvement in a child as they're growing. But this one speaks to specific outcomes as far as improvement in, the scores, I guess, at certain age and grade levels as children grow. So to me, it really is just another, check of the box about the value and importance of fathers' involvement in children's lives and how it helps support their development over time. What's your take on it?
Well, just high level, I fully agree that, well, I wouldn't be here unless I thought fatherhood was important. So let's just put it up front like that. I think as we get a little bit further into the article and the research findings, there's some areas that we go, okay. But overall, yes, the fatherhood involvement. And again, one of the programs, and I'm really proud to be associated with, is Super Dad, Super Kids, that, Brian Russell, who preceded us, created. And one of the key things that we say is, the quality of time that a dad spends with his child or children. And one of the key things we say to them, especially when your child's growing up, the importance of reading to your child before they go to bed. And that educational attainment and just being important and being involved in your child's life, especially from an educational slant, is really important. So that's, before I get too much into it, that's where I get so far.
Yeah, which really goes along with the first paragraph from this article that says, children whose fathers read, play, sing, and draw with them show that small but significant increase in their educational attainment at primary school, according to this research. And so really, just 10 minutes a day could make a difference for those children within fathers who do those things over time. So
I,
we can go through some of the specifics, and it's this study that was commissioned in the UK. It was by their Economic and Social Research Council. The lead investigator or lead researcher is actually part of the School of Business at Leeds University. And then there's a fathers organization in the UK that was also involved in commissioning this research and carrying it out. So
you know,
very
we should,
interesting.
yeah, we should reach out to that organization. I'm going to do that. I'm going to reach
Sure.
out to them.
We can definitely do that.
We can definitely do that because I'd like to get their lens on it. But you shared in that first paragraph from the article, 10 minutes a day. I just want to land on that. 10 minutes a day. It cycles me back to, I shared on one of the previous episodes when I was doing a training a few months ago, and this father who comes home at 11 o'clock at night, and that's when he spends time with his child. His son is waiting for him. And what do? They go out for a drive. And he does that every day that he comes home from work. And it's no more than 10 or 15 minutes. And it's so valuable that his son is looking forward to that. It's their quality time. It's not an hour. It's not 2 hours. It's not 3 hours. 10 minutes a day can have positive impact. So I'm glad you shared about that. I just want to make sure that we as a stick a pin on that fact per se. So I'll bring it back to you.
It is very doable, isn't it? When you hear just 10 minutes a day and the long-term difference it can make. Yeah, doable. The article goes on to say this, and I want to read it because I think it's really important. While it's long been recognized that parental engagement is critical for a child's education and development, and I don't think anyone would argue with that, this study claims that fathers have a unique and important effect on children's educational outcomes. And I think it's important to recognize that it's unique and it's important and it's for fathers. That's the part that I think is very interesting. And in the best way possible, it calls dads out. Not in the best way possible. Dads, you are unique. Your impact on your child is unique. And so recognizing the value of your role as dads is a big part of what I think stands out to me in that paragraph.
And I want to build on that too. It'd be interesting and we have a lot of conversations with fathers, it'd be interesting to ask them, how important do you feel your role is in your child's educational development? I'd really like to ask some of the dads, and even if they've been asked that question before, but and then showing them how, especially based on this article and this research study, how important they are to it.
It's an interesting question because being involved in, let's say, education. So am I checking on my kids' homework? Am I sitting down helping them do homework? Am I, asking them, hey, what are you learning in school? Yes, I am doing some of those things. But even if I didn't do those things, and I just read to them, played with them, sang with them, and was drawing with them, I'm actually going to help their educational attainment without even focusing on being involved in their education per se. And I say that because I know many dads who they're like, well, mom's more connected to the school. She's doing more of the meeting with the teachers and asking the questions. And for whatever reason, I'm not saying that that's not a good thing. It just means how they have established it with their family. There's a little bit of a division there as far as mom tends to take more involvement and investment in connecting with the school and being involved in the child's education per se. What I like or want to highlight is this study makes it clear that dads can do these things that are just normal part of building a positive relationship. And that's a support to the education process. Of course, the parenting team needs to determine who's going to be involved with what, how they're going to be involved, who's connecting with the school or not. Are you both, or it's just one of you, et cetera. But I wanted to bring out that maybe slight distinction.
I'm going to add a layer onto that education doesn't just mean classroom. I think, and a lot of people may read this and just think school, school, school. When I think of education, it's a holistic area, not just the going to school, but there's, and I can speak for myself, I learned as much about life outside of the school than I did inside of the school. So I think, and I think for fathers, for just from my lens, education doesn't just mean school. Teaching things, teaching how to do things that may not involve books, arithmetic, all those sort of things, but there's other forms of education also. I just wanted to, that just came up out of my mind, that some people just think, oh, well, Dad, I just got to, if I don't deal with the school all the time, I'm not doing a good job. But that's only part of the educational process. Just a thought.
Well, you come from an education pedigree, so we're welcoming your thoughts because of your experience, right? I think it is relevant, though, to talk about this study, which is very much about education in terms of like school and your performance in the school metrics for certain ages and stages. And so the study found that greater involvement by fathers before their child attends primary school, so in that 0 to 4, 0 to 5, whatever primary school is, gives an educational advantage to children in their first year. And it goes on to say, while greater involvement at the age of 5 helps increase attainment in key stage, and this is built in UK, stage 1 assessments at 7. And the effect is slightly more pronounced in math. So they looked at the performance of students at 5, 7, and 11, and correlated that with fathers' involvement and engaging in those activities of playing, singing, drawing, reading to their children. And the more a father does it right from an early age, and the more they do it as the child grows, the bigger impact it has on that child's educational development. I'm sure there's other benefits as well, but this study was very focused on how do they perform in school. And again, we know we've got research that highlights there's other developmental benefits, there's other key highlights that come from that. I think there's an important point here I want to bring up, though. Just reading, playing, singing, and drawing is great, and those help build relatedness, bonds, connection, attachment. But there are other things that dads can do that will either make the relationship not as positive or can continue to deepen and strengthen the relationship. So I think that those are great tactics, but at the end of the day, the relationship is really what matters most. Is that relationship growing positively, strongly, in a healthy way?
No, I don't disagree. I'm a strong believer that the relationships are the key for everything, not just so you can have a father can be great with education with their child or children, but if there's not a relationship there, it's going to be a steep hill. And it not only is going to be a steep hill during the time, but could also lead to steep hills when they become adult children and maybe adults on top of that. So I think is a very relevant point, Drew.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this because it goes on to say that the study drew a distinction between the impact of mothers and fathers. It says while fathers' involvement had an impact on educational attainment, mothers had more of an impact on emotional and social behaviors.
That's a loaded one because we were talking before we were doing this recording that we thought it'd be better co-creative. Now, fathers have more impact educational wise. Don't know. I Drew, correct me if I'm wrong, you have seen studies that say either the opposite or different than that. Am I correct?
Not so much different. It just shows that when you have a positively involved father, fathers also support emotional development,
Yeah.
as well as improvement in some social development as well. So it meaning that when fathers are positively involved, they contribute to improved areas in those areas, improvements in each of those areas. But this one creates that distinction, which is
Yeah.
interesting. And so what I think it's saying, to pull it back a little bit, is it's not saying that dads don't have a positive impact on that. It's saying that the mothers have a greater influence on that, just like fathers have a greater influence on educational attainment based on what part of what they have reviewed, which is interesting. So again, the uniqueness of a mother's role in helping children develop healthy emotions and engaging well socially. So to me, it just goes to show that both parents have significant and unique contributions to children as they develop. And so some people might look at that, and maybe even as we were starting to talk about it, and it creates these, almost a division. Oh, this is mom's role, this is like dad's area, or well, moms are good at this and dads aren't. It's about together, both mom and dad make the greatest amount of positive difference for that child. And so they both are needed and both have unique value in a positive way.
Yeah, I think ideally, yes, the situation is when both parents are working together. Dad is educational, mom is social and emotional. I think that's somewhat true, but I think ideally you want a co-creative parenting atmosphere where both are engaged in the different areas of a child's life. Some may be more than the other, but we don't want it where it's 100% and 0%. To me, that's not healthy parenting.
Agreed.
Good
and we
stuff.
know the better parents work together as a team, that makes the biggest difference for children. Because where there's conflict or there's a lot of maybe a divisive atmosphere, children sense and feel that, and that impacts their overall feelings and sense of security. Anyways, so that is important.
It just goes back to one of my mentors. I can't remember his name right now. He says that, a lot of people replicate what they emulate. So children too, again, and I bring out the point that it's not only impacting them then and there, it can also affect them down the line when they grow older, and even when they're not under your roof anymore. That can be that impact. So you're setting a foundation for your children's future by what's going on today. And as Drew said earlier on, that 0 to 5 age is absolutely critical.
Are you a dad who feels like you're juggling a million things at once? Balancing work, family, and personal goals can be overwhelming. But what if there was a solution? That's why we created our new fatherhood community called Dad Mentor. For over 20 years, Dad Central has built practical tools to help dads. We understand the challenges you face and provide the support you need to thrive. The biggest complaint we hear from dads is there's no dedicated support for their specific needs. But not anymore. Our new community, called Dad Mentor, is here to transform your fatherhood experience. Imagine feeling in control, staying calm and patient when your children misbehave. Picture yourself connected to your children, guiding them with confidence and watching them succeed. When you join Dad Mentor, you'll have access to a community of like-minded dads committed to their dad journey, just like you. You'll also get the Dad's Roadmap. This is a step-by-step plan to help you go from unsure to unstoppable as a dad. Monthly masterclasses and Q&A sessions. You'll get answers and know exactly what to do straight from experts. Monthly group meetups that connect dads over common topics. A dad's resource library. Curated webinars, podcasts, or guides built by Dad Central to help you grow as a parent. And finally, you'll also get exclusive members-only offers and events. Now, many dads do try to do this fatherhood thing alone, only to find themselves trapped in frustration and strained relationships. Then they may turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms like drugs, alcohol, or other distractions, leaving their family and their own well-being at risk. We don't want you to reach that point of regret. Take steps to invest in you and your family today. Join Dad Mentor and go from stressed, tired, and overwhelmed to confident, calm, and connected. Join us today by going to dadcentral.ca/dads.
What I really like about this article is it moves on to talk about recommendations or solutions. So now that we know this, what do we do? How can we practically apply? Well, I mean, the first step you might say is, well, just, dads play with their kids more, take 10 minutes a day, right? But the study recommends that fathers carve out as much time as they can to engage in playful and educational activities with their children each week. This is the quote from the research: says engaging in multiple types of structured activities several times a week, even if just for short periods of time, helps to enrich a child's cognitive and language development. That's what the study. So just 10 minutes a day could have beneficial impacts. I mean, that's Super Dad, Super Kids is a part of that. It's helping dads know and understand. We have a resource called Daddy Come Play With Me. It's helping dads know and understand their role in play from birth as the child develops. And so we've got great resources that have been built off similar knowledge and from similar research. So I think the call to action is dads being involved. Like, just get involved with their kids, play, have fun, draw, those creative outlets. One of the things that I found really as my kids got to about, 3, 4, is like board games. Board games like Snakes and Ladders early on. Then we got this cooperation game, Hoot Owl Hoot. Then we got other games that really the kids really love playing.
I miss Snakes and Ladders.
I think it's called Shoots and Ladders now. I'm not sure.
No, sure. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right.
So, but those were ways that, it takes 10 minutes to play one of those games. So you literally play one of those games, you're doing that. You're doing what the study's encouraging people to do. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I think it's absolutely critical. Like it's an investment. It's an investment, right? And just like good investors, they put a little bit in and they go for the long term. So what I'm encouraging and suggesting to fathers, again, going back to Super Dad, Super Kids, one of the core foundation pieces of that training is that it's not how much time you spend with your kids, it's what you do when you're with your kids.
Yeah. I really love this next recommendation where it says it recommends that schools and early years education providers should routinely take both parents' contact details where possible and develop positive strategies to engage fathers. Well, that's what Dad Central has been doing. We've been equipping and training family service or early childhood education organizations how to engage dads. And the one really positive thing I'll say here is that they come finding us a lot of the time. They know dads are important. They want to engage dads, but they're just not quite sure how. And that's where we have come in hand for them. We've got the program, Super Dad, Super Kids. We've got our training, My Dad Banners, and we've got all of our resources that are designed directly for fathers. And then we've got, the experience of working and supporting dads directly. So I love the fact that the school board piece in particular, they're talking to school boards to engage dads. To me, I find that as encouraging, and I'd love to see more of that happening here as well.
I just want to bring up a little situation here. And I remember you just said a few moments ago about how, I don't know if you remember when we were in a meeting earlier today with some committee members, and we were talking about conferences. And I remember doing a panel at the 2019 conference that Dad Central was part of. And I remember one of the fathers saying, "Hey, I know what to do. Tell me how to do it." Tell me. I remember it vividly, him saying that, and it was such a good point. They say, just tell me what I need to do. I want to be better. Tell me what I need to do. Mm-hmm. Never forget that. Never forget that.
Yeah, that's important for sure. I want to read one more quote here, maybe two more. We'll see. It's from the Dr. Helen Norman. She's the research fellow at Leeds University Business School who led the research. Her quote is, "Mothers still tend to assume the primary carer role and therefore tend to do the most childcare. But if fathers actively engage in childcare too, it significantly increases the likelihood of children getting better grades in primary school. This is why encouraging and supporting fathers to share childcare with the mother from an early stage in the child's life is critical."
I want to jump in on that big time in the fact that it's interesting to see how that has been altered, or at least been more thought of with dads during the pandemic and post-pandemic. Because a lot of fathers that I spoke with during and post-pandemic, a light bulb went on that they now recognize firsthand how important they are to their children and to the family. And I know a few fathers since pandemic saying, you know what, I have a number of fathers more engaged because they were put on the front line for a prolonged period of time. And they recognize not only their value as a father, but their value to their children. And I think I hear that statement, but I do say that I think more fathers are realizing that and finding ways to become more actively engaged in what you just described to our audience.
Yeah, I think that this message ultimately is not so much for fathers, because I think fathers are, at least the ones that we've engaged with, want that involvement and they want to contribute and they do get actively involved. I think it's for the broader structures and systems in place, especially around, this topic has come up, paternity leave, especially around employer support for fathers, taking time off, especially for the acknowledgement that fathers are parents too, and they need to be included in the whole parenting process, and they need similar supports in the parenting process that typically aren't around or available or invested in. That to me is the key. There isn't that there's a significant potential financial blowback, and this is not, it can happen for everyone who's going on parental leave, moms or dads, right? There's a significant potential hit, and moms or can be business owners, dads can be, the point is that more often than not, the fathers tend to feel the financial stress and strain because of their desire to provide, or maybe their need to provide, and there is not a support to enable the father to be involved in the parenting process. Families have to make decisions, and it's challenging in these economic times with inflation, with rising costs, interest rates, you name it, right? It's challenging, but I would say that that's one of the areas that jumps out to me is, where's the financial support for fathers to be involved, knowing that this is actually an investment in down the road? I mean, the impact socially, when you have more positively involved fathers, can change. Maybe healthcare won't be such an issue because we'll have our kids will be healthier growing up, and they won't need as much because we don't have the mental and emotional challenges because you didn't have an involved father, or there'll be greater attainment in terms of the children's investment in their own career development because they've worked hard at school because they've had a positive father. I mean, the impacts I think are further reaching, but there's no investment in the father's role and engagement in the family.
Oh, again, you bring up that word that I just mentioned a few moments ago, investment. Yeah. It's not an expense, it's an investment. Fatherhood is an investment, it's not an expense. And again, when fatherhood is invested in and fathers invest in being a father, the returns are multiplied. It's a ripple effect for many years to come.
I'm going to use a word, both compounded and exponential, the returns.
There you go. It's like compound interest. There you go. Compound
You got it.
interest and compound returns. Yeah, I know there's maybe another quote that you want us. I know you mentioned it before we went on the recording. I was going to use it, but I want you to talk about it.
Yeah, this might just be the final quote to say is, this study shows that even small changes in what fathers do and in how schools and early year settings engage with parents can have a lasting impact on children's learning. It's absolutely crucial that fathers aren't treated as an afterthought. So that,
There
not
you go.
my comment, that's the quote from the individuals who are around this study.
I don't have to add anything into that. That's good. I'm good.
Great way to end.
There you go. So, hey, family, thank you so much. And we're going to put a link to the article that goes along with this study. And we're going to try to reach out to some of the people involved in this study because we'd like to get some of their thoughts on this. So, Drew, any final words about this study that you would like to share with our family?
Not really. I think the study is valuable. It reinforces what we already know and encourage fathers to get involved in just 10 minutes a day.
I think that the last sentence, that last quote said it all for me, that fathers are absolutely crucial. So, and we know that, we believe that all of you watching know that, but if you don't, hey, studies don't lie. All right. So as always, if you want to get in contact with us, suggestions, etc., email us at podcast@dadcentral.ca. Want to check out some episodes? Go to dadcentral.ca/podcasts. Lots of episodes. And also provide some feedback. Rate the conversations. We want to hear from you. And then finally, we have a number of free resources at dadcentral.ca. And closing it out, Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man, because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. So as always, remember to give yourself grace. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and we'll catch you soon. Thanks for watching, or thanks for listening.